Iowa, Indiana. All right. Welcome, Michelle, Aliana, Sarah, Memphis. I used to be from Memphis. Welcome, welcome. San Diego, Texas. Excellent. Hello, everybody. Fernando's here. Hi, Fernando. Karen, Carly, also Texas. San Jose. Nice. I love we got people from all over the place. This is fantastic. All right, I've got my people coming in. Get my screen going here. All right, what time is it? 13:01. I guess I should get started. So first, I'll just say hi. My name's Elizabeth Shaffer. I work here with Lionfish Cybersecurity. Um, we're a compliance, governance, risk, and compliance firm, and we help people make sure that they're ready for whatever the government requires of them, but mostly to keep their information safe. I've got a couple of my high-level colleagues here with me to help out. Fernando, if you don't mind showing yourself for a second and introducing yourself, I'd appreciate that. Oh, Fernando's being shy. There he
Sorry.
is.
Hey guys, I'm part of the SOC team, so we work with organizations on implementing frameworks to ensure they are secure 24/7 and they're compliant. But yeah, we're implementing all the layers of security such as SIM, EDR, vulnerability scanning, everything really. And then the team manages all the alerts and remediates any type of securities. That's my job. So I can answer those type of questions if anybody has them.
Perfect. So we've got me to talk about the new NPRM. We've got Fernando to help us with the tech side, and we'll go ahead and get rolling. I'm going to share my screen, maybe. Where's my share? There it is. Do, 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 do. This one. All right, so here we are. We're going to talk about HIPAA 2025 NPRM. That's the Notice of Proposed Rulemaking. It's for health providers because obviously it's about HIPAA. Hopefully you have some knowledge of HIPAA because, we all have to go through those yearly trainings to make sure that we know that we're protecting our information. Just as a beginning, there are three parts to HIPAA. There's the privacy rule, which is the one that says how we can share information. There's the breach notification rule, which says, hey, if something happens to my electronic information, this is how I have to handle that, and this is who I have to tell. And then there's the security rule, which is about how do we protect our electronic private health information or protected health information. And that's mostly the one that we're going to talk about today because that's the main thing that is being affected, the security rule. Um, just as just as an opener, anybody want to open up their microphone and say what you know about the proposed rule going forward? Anybody have a little bit of background? No, I see no's. Maybe you want to open up and say, hey, I've got this one big question. Anybody got like an over umbrella question they want to ask right away? Okay. Well, I do want to say, and that is fine. I've got this presentation pretty lean. We have about an hour to share together. I probably have 25 to 30 minutes of presentation and information to share. My hope is that on the chat, you'll just chime in and say, hey, what about this? I don't know what this is. And if I can't see it, if one of my colleagues would let me know about that, I'd sure appreciate it. And at the end, we'll also have plenty of time for questions. So if you want to make this a conversation, that would be great. I myself am a former speech language pathologist. You know we are chatty. It's all about the blab. So yeah, ask the questions as they go along if you like. Also, I am not a lawyer. I am not personally an auditor, so do not take this as legal advice. However, my company and the people that I work with, we have spent a lot of time with auditors, and so we should be able to answer some of your questions about, hey, what are they looking for? What kinds of things should we be worried about? I'm just going to check my notes. Is there anything else? Oh, I have, I'm going to put right now into the, no, I'm not, because I'm sharing my screen. Okay, when we get further down the line, I'll put in the chat. I have the NPRM, actually, the HHS NPRM, and I'll put it in the chat so you can click the link yourself and see what's going on with that. Okay, anything else? Oh, yeah. Thinking of auditors, the way the OCR, which is the Office of Civil Rights, which is a branch of HHS, the way they run their audits is kind of a now, next, evidence format. And that's sort of how I'm going to talk about it. Now is what do you have in place? What does your company, your organization, your practice look like right now? Next, what are the things you've got to fix? That's something that auditors look at. And then evidence. What do you have in place that shows that you're actually doing this thing that they require, that shows that you actually have a policy in place for that? Which makes perfect sense to any of us, right? If any of us, all of us who've been clinicians know if it isn't charted, it didn't happen, right? And so they're codifying, HHS is codifying this same thing with the new HIPAA security rule. If it ain't written down, if we don't have some proof that this is happening, it didn't happen. And let me just tell you, things can get kind of hairy if they think that you have had a breach and there are things you should have done and you didn't do. And I'm going to go to this next slide. So we got, what are they looking for? Healthcare is now the most targeted industry by hackers. There's a lot of holes, there's a lot of ways to get in. And part of the reason that that is happening is because there's a lot of smaller practices who may or may not have all of the controls in place. And so hackers use this kind of spray and pray strategy a lot of times where they just throw out a bunch of phishing emails or they talk to help desks or whatever, and whoever bites is who they get. So they're not just targeting the big guys. Although, if you've been listening to the news, you probably heard that University of Mississippi Medical Center, just February the 19th, I believe, they had a ransomware attack. It shut them down. They just opened March 2nd. So their medical center, a lot of their other clinics were closed from the February 19th to March 2nd. People didn't have a place to go to get help. They couldn't get to their medical records. The ransomware closed down their email. The ransomware also closed down their phone lines. People couldn't call in to find out what was happening. So it can be a big mess. HHS and OCR have been following this, right? And they've been stepping up the number of audits they've been doing. What they've been finding is that anywhere from 62 to 76% of the people who have had breaches have not been following the current HIPAA policies, right? So there's this idea of addressable currently that says, if you can make, well, what people are taking it for is that it's optional. Hey, if we can address this, we will. And so with the new HIPAA security rule, what HHS is doing is codifying it and saying, no, this is baseline now. These will be mandatory. And that's assuming that everything goes through. The NPRM is still on the agenda for May for HHS to be reviewed and taken into account. Once that goes through, it'll be anywhere from 6 to 12 months that all of this will need to be in place. You can see on my slide too that it's not just, like I said, not just the big practices, but the small practices. We've got this solo gastroenterologist in Utah who had to pay $100,000 because they didn't have the risk analysis, they didn't have a risk management plan, they didn't have business associate agreements. $100,000 for a single practitioner. Agape Health Services in North Carolina, they mostly did Medicaid, right? They were working with folks low economic. It wasn't all that big, but still $25,000 fine for them because they also no risk analysis. They were missing audit controls. And so OCR's message was the size determines the penalty amount, not whether the rules apply, and not whether there will be penalties. So these are some things to think about. And then at the bottom, Brookside ENT and Hearing Center, it was just $6,500 Bitcoin. The hacker said, hey, we're going to ransom, we're going to close off your EMR. And these guys, they took the high ground and said, we're not paying you bupkis. We're not, folding to your terrorism. But then they lost their business because they couldn't get into any of their medical records and they had to close down. So there are real world consequences and problems. And here's the thing too. I'm going to look down at my notes again. 43% of cyber attacks overall, not just healthcare, go to small to medium businesses. Of those 43% of small to medium businesses who experience a cyber attack or a breach, 60% of those are closed within 6 months. So this is an investment in your business, taking care of this. It's not any longer just well, I have to do this checklist and throw it somewhere on a shelf and never look at it again. Okay. Anybody want to take a guess as to why medical records are so juicy to cyber attackers? Somebody want to take a guess? Because I'll tell you right now, it's $1 to $5 on the dark web for a credit card, $60 up to $1,000 on the dark web for a full medical record. Who
All
wants
their
to take
personal information.
all their personal information, right? How tall I am, how much I weigh, what my social security number is, probably what my credit card number is, what my insurance is. There's identity theft, insurance fraud. These are super, super, super valuable to somebody who wants to be sneaky and lazy and take our information. Okay, checking my note. Yeah. Okay, so let's go on. And again, if you have a question, please raise your hand, chime in. I'm so cool with that. And in fact, I'll take a moment. Anybody have a question? All right, moving right along. Cybersecurity compliance, proactive risk accountability. We are caregivers, we are clinicians, we are therapists. We know that if we are living our lives in reactivity, then small problems get bigger. This is all about preventative care. This is all about accountability, right? And the accountability lies with the business owner. There are examples where someone's business associate or vendor, they were the ones who let the information be breached. However, the main business was the one who was on the line. If you hold PHI, you're the person who is in your business is what is accountable, not the vendor. So it's important to have policies and controls in place. Roles and accountability. Do you have a security officer? Do you have a compliance officer? And look, I understand. You may be a one person or a two-person organization. And if that's the case, those hats may all be on your head. And that's fine. It just needs to be written out somewhere. And you need to know, have your finger on the pulse of your own business and know where everything is. Risk management processes. And if you saw on the last slide, you saw these are the things that a lot of the companies didn't have. And that's just, hey, do I have an idea of what might happen? And do I have a plan in place? And we'll talk more about that in a second. And then continuous monitoring, right? Again, it can't just go on the shelf as a checklist that I don't think about anymore. This needs to be something that we have our finger on throughout the year. And it's a continuous process. And that's part of preventative action, right? What does it do for you? Key benefits. Reduce your financial liability. Minimize breach costs, fines, cyber insurance exposure. Your cyber insurance, if you choose to get it, could go down 15 to 20% just by having multi-factor authorization, right? So this is all important things. Predictable compliance cycles, and make sure if you are audited, you do have everything in place to meet that, which I can't, again, not a lawyer, could affect whether your fines are really high or less. Operational continuity reduces downtime. Holy smokes, folks. a large medical center in Mississippi, the one I was talking about, down for 2 weeks. How did they not have a plan in place? The new rule says that it's going to be about 72 hours is all that's going to be acceptable for downtime. You're going to need to be able to get back up and working again in 72 hours. So you need to know how you're going to do that. And then accountability and visibility, and of course, trust and competitive gain. I'll tell you right now, I don't want to go to Mississippi and be ill. Ooh, I saw something in the chat. Was that a question? I just lost it. Jeremy or Mike, can you see if there's a question? No?
It just
Okay.
says fraud. It just says
Oh,
fraud.
yeah, fraud. Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Not it
Um,
just says, but that's what it says. Fraud. Fraud.
it says fraud, and fraud is an important thing to avoid. And these also things for compensation. Medicare and Medicaid are going to be watching for this as well, and it could affect your BIPs. So that's something important that you need to know. Okay, so here's the core requirements. These are the 8 things that the proposed rule says we're going to make this basement. This will be the bottom line that everybody, regardless of size, will have to have in place. Now, even though this is the bottom line, the basement, if you are a two-person organization, the way you handle it may be different from a 500 person organization. The level of policies, the level of controls may be different. You still have to have them, but they may not need to be as complex. So what we're going to talk about is a complete asset inventory, the required safeguards that I'll show you all of those. Vendor risk, which is a big way that folks can get into your PHI. Recovery capability, that's 72 hours. Do you have backups? Risk analysis. Your defenses are tested regularly. Incident response plan. And of course, document, 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 document. Okay. All right, so we're going to go through each of those individually. Always, I got to go through my notes. Yep, covered everything. All right, so the first thing, your initial assessment. Because I thought I was like, oh, I'm going to be so cute. I'm going to make this all medical. Your initial assessment. Asset inventory and data map. You don't have to do this by yourself. Okay. If you have IT, if you have a managed service provider, if you want us to come in, or whoever, you figure out how many computers and laptops. Does somebody have access on their phone? Do they have a tablet somewhere far away? What are your servers in your cloud system? Patient portals, mobile devices, network equipment. And it's a visual map. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. I mean, you can't just like draw it on a napkin and have that somewhere. But, a piece of paper with it drawn out if you're small. The more complex your organization is, the more codified this is going to have to be. But again, you'll get help putting all of this together. And I'm just going to take a little side note here and ask Fernando, about how long does this kind of thing take usually? I keep surprising him. No? Okay. He may have gotten a call or something. He's a busy guy. That's okay. But this is like the very first thing you do because you don't know what your care plan of care is going to be. You don't know where your gaps are. You don't know what you need to do next unless you have your now asset inventory and data map. And I gotta move this chat. Okay. The next thing is the annual physical. Okay, so you've got your chart started, you know where you are now, and you're going to get the risk analysis. Now, I love this slide. I think it's fabulous because we've got our spooky bad actors in the background and our thunder and lightning and all of that stuff. This isn't about fear. It's really just about what do I need to be concerned about? I need to be concerned about in my family. There's a very strong thread of breast cancer. There's a very, very strong thread of diabetes. There's a very strong thread of heart issues. So I need to know about that in my own life and have things in preparation so that I know what I need to expect. It's the same thing with your business. Here on the coast, we need to be considerate of if there's a hurricane and power goes down, what do we do? In Idaho or Iowa, you need to be maybe more concerned about a tornado. Okay, everybody needs to be concerned about what if somebody gets phished on an email and we have ransomware, you know? So you ask the questions, what could go wrong in my system? How likely could is that going to happen? How bad would it be if it happened? And what are we going to do about it? Right? So sit down, do a little risk analysis. And again, for a small to medium business, 1 to 5 people in it, maybe that's only the 5 or 10 biggest things that you can think of. For a bigger business, you might have to have more and a bigger idea of what's going on. And it's not just paperwork. This is decision support. It helps you figure out what you need to address first and make your priorities. And HIPAA becomes operational here. So, you're looking at your technology, you're updating it, you're protecting patient trust and privacy. Right? This is how you make sure you're ready, your readiness program. And then you can have a plan of action and milestones. You can have a care plan, a therapeutic plan with goals to make sure that you're addressing what you need to address. The next requirement is preventative care. These are the safeguards that will be required if NPRM 2025 is approved in May. Multi-factor authentication. You know what? I've worked in several hospitals and it was crazy how people moaned and groaned about having to sign into a computer and it took all of 4 seconds. Right. And multi-factor authentication is something that we're all very familiar with now. If you have a banking app on your phone, if you do Microsoft Office, any of those things, they're going to require it's just part of doing business these days. So multi-factor authentication, encryption at rest and in transit. So your healthcare information is encrypted if it's just sitting stored somewhere, which means you probably don't want to have just a little, what are those doodads called that you plug in and you download information on it. Can't be really be using those, it can't be encrypted. But your network is encrypted, and if it's at rest, oh, I've got to send out a referral to, I don't know, an orthopedist. I've got to send out a referral for labs, whatever. You've got to know that your email or your messaging system is also encrypted. Access controls. Only certain people have access to certain things. And again, codified. Is that in your policies? Network segmentation. Is anybody allowed into your records room? No. Is anybody allowed behind the desk to look at your scheduling and your healthcare record? No. Right? So in the same way of that physical aspect, it's also that way for your electronic. So that means that if you have Wi-Fi out in your waiting room, that it doesn't in any way connect with the Wi-Fi that's working your electronic health care, your records and all, right? So that needs to be definitely segmented. And again, so I'm going to go back to the Mississippi Medical Center because my mind is just blown the more I think about this is 2026 and an organization of this size had this problem. It wasn't just one clinic. It was statewide. They hadn't segmented their networks, so it just spread through their whole system. Mind blowing. Updated software. Uh, this is a place, especially for the smaller people, that this is maybe something you don't realize is happening. That you get, and I have been guilty of this. I get a notification that there's a software update and I ignore it. Those things got to be put in because they may and often do have new ways to protect your information. And if it's not updated, it's a lot easier again for hackers and bad actors to sneak their way into your system. Anti-malware. Oh, and I do want to say for updated software and anti-malware, very often your electronic medical records, your provider for that, they'll have that, but maybe they don't. And so you need to know. You need to know that that's happening, and you need to ask. And then logging, log, chart, 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 document, 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 document. Everything, including, that you're testing and you're making sure all this is happening. That all has to be documented. Any questions? Am I going too fast? Does anybody have anything they need to know? Y'all are like, come on, girl, just get on with it. Okay. Okay. Requirement 4, your labs. Testing, scanning and testing. The new proposed rule is going to be asking that vulnerability scans, speech therapy, require twice annually. So twice a year, vulnerability scans occur to make sure that security issues, have been tested and you know where they are and you can fix them. Penetration testing once a year. So an ethical hacker, maybe your IT can do this if you're working with a managed service provider. Again, if you're working with us, we go in and we check. Can we hack you? Can we phish your service desk? Rosemary at the front, when she picks up the phone and I say, "Hey, it's Karen. I need Mr. Jones's stuff. Do you just hand it out to me, or does Rosemary know to be like, hey, wait a minute, this isn't how we do this. We have a policy in place." So penetration testing yearly, vulnerability scans twice annually. These are probably not things that you personally, as a business owner or a clinician, are going to do. You're going to need a tech person to take care of this for you. And you know what? It doesn't matter. Maybe your brother Bob can do it for you, but it will need to be happening. Don't fly blind. Do your processes actually work? Okay. Okay. This is a big one. This one's going to see a lot of changes. Your referral network, your vendor oversight. Um, Anybody who touches your PHI will have to have a business associate agreement. But Elizabeth, you say, my vendors already have a business associate agreement. How old is that thing? Because it's going to need to be updated every year, right? And do you have written verification from them that they meet required safeguards? Do you have documentation of this that you can show an auditor? And is there verification of your vendors, your business associates, security measures, again, every year? So this is becoming a constant thing. It's not, well, we started working with Acme Sheets 4 years ago and they attested to this and it's done. It has to be reviewed. It's going to have to be reviewed for the proposal. And then, I've got a little list here of the kinds of categories that will typically need that: technology and cloud services, billing and revenue cycle, IT, cybersecurity and MSPs, diagnostic clinical support services, practice operation and admin tools, outsourced staff and contractors. That was one that I read actually not long ago. That was also kind of crazy to me. I think it was a home health service, and they had CNAs, what are they, certified nursing assistants going out, and a lot of them were PRN or on temporary contracts. And so they could just walk in, get the information on Mr. Jones, and go out and see Mr. Jones, but they didn't have any kind of oversight. They didn't have a business associate agreement or anything like that. This would be one of the things that OCR would look at and say, oh no, this is a very bad thing. And if one of those individuals had a breach, put it on their phone, something happened, who would be on the hook? Would it be, Sally Mae? Mm-mm. It would be your business that would be on the hook for the breach. I keep saying breach, but, mistake, error, whatever. They are a very high risk. Going to see, checking my notes. Ensure the agreements are signed. You own the policies and you own the training. Any questions about vendor oversight? This seems like a big topic to me.
Yes,
I
I do
saw,
have a question. So the when billing plus revenue cycle, so that also need the BA, right?
yes, especially if they have any access to the protected health information.
Mhm.
It could be, like a credit card number, not necessarily, but if they touch it in some way, yes.
And also, so we practice for a behavioral health, and we do have a system called Rethink that is our system for patient, So I want to know that, so whoever has that, so the technicians has that basically, and whoever has that, the Rethink should have BA agreement. Am I correct?
They should. Again, if they have, you said that that's how you work with your patient information, then they
Yeah.
should have that. And you can contact, it may be in your original contract with them, but you can contact their customer service and get an attestation.
Okay, and I also handle the IT. So this is one of the thing which I had struggled with. So when we just migrated from Google to Microsoft. Okay, so I just went to the BA agreement part in Microsoft, and then just agreed, gave the tick mark as agreed, and then downloaded the BA agreement. Is that enough?
That should be enough. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
You'll just need to do it every year, right?
I need to do that every year.
Every
Okay.
year. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
that is good. That is good information.
Yeah. Yeah. No, thank you so much for asking. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, I'm going to keep moving. And Fernando, if you're still here, I can't see. If you're still here and you want to chime in at any time, please do. He knows a lot about this. Okay, your emergency services, response and recovery. This is requirements 6 and 7. So once you have your risk analysis, you need an incident response plan. Who does what? Who calls whom? What are the first three actions to take? A clear written plan prevents chaos. Nobody wants chaos. Oh, hi, Fernando. Nobody wants chaos, right? So it's important to have all this written out. And here's the thing, with recovery capability, you need to be able to restore your critical systems within 72 hours after a disruption. And this is something that you will work with your managed service provider or your IT person or whomever, so that you know that this works and you can get back. Okay, again, looking at you, Mississippi Medical Center, 2 weeks later. Pa. Okay. So this also, if you are somebody else's vendor or you are downstreams from someone else and you have a breach, you have 24 hours to tell that person above you. And if one of your vendors have a breach, they will have 24 hours to tell you, and that can be part of your incident response plan as well. Do we know what's going to happen if someone we work with has lost PHI? Okay. Upstream notification. Oh, this is also a new one. You need to have multiple backups. Automated daily backups will need to be occurred. And then you probably are going to want to have like a weekly big backup as well. This will be another way that you have uh, reassurance that you'll be able to get back up in 72 hours. And Fernando, I just want to ask you, what is one of the ways that how do you keep your backups separate from just, hey, I've backed up like I back up my laptop and I think I'm done, but it's still in the same system.
So there's various ways that the guys back up information where everything's encrypted, right? There's also strategies where nothing can be changed. Nothing can be extracted. Nothing can be only authorized users can access data. So there's a number of strategies to ensure backups are not are ever there's no disruptions to any type of backups, but we take backups even more seriously than security because security something's going to break. Something will sneak through and you have to restore data. We have to have that data available. We don't want people to be down more than an hour. There are special scenarios where they will be down longer, but we want to get them up that same day.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And consider in your business, if your systems are down for 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, 2 weeks, how much revenue are you losing? How does it affect your clients and your patients who need your services? So again, a lot of this is not just about we've got to put, HIPAA wants to, not HIPAA, HHS wants to put something else on your already full plate. HIPAA is all about protecting your patients and protecting your clients. Just another thing, your test results are going to be required to be kept for 6 years. So should OCR come in and have to do an audit, they're going to want to know, hey, have you been keeping up with this and do you have it all in place? Okay, requirement number 8. This one, piece of cake, right? Chart notes and continuing ed, documentation and training. Oh my gosh, if there is anything that healthcare providers know, it's documentation and training. Everything has to be in place. And it could be, depending on what the documentation is, it could be a screenshot of something that has happened. It could be your written policies. It could be some things that you will get from your IT providers or your MSP where they're logging administration controls and that kind of thing. And then training. You're probably, I mean, I know I did every year. I had to do my HIPAA training and I had to check that off. But you also need to make sure that the security, the cybersecurity part of that is folded in, and that you and the people that work with you and anyone who touches protected health information, um, they've been trained, and preferably before they touch the protected health information. So if you're onboarding somebody new into your organization, they should get the training before they start meddling around with your systems. I say meddling like that's a bad thing. I know I've been a meddlers. And if you already have HIPAA documentation, if you already have policies, the new 2025 NPRM is a great reason to go back in and make sure that they're up to date. Make sure that the things that you have policies are practical things that you're actually doing, that they're not just some checklist that you put together because somebody said you had to, and that you are protected and your patients are protected. We're almost done. You guys have been great. Okay, the 90-day action plan. Number 1, what are auditors looking for? They're looking for progress, not perfection. If there was one thing, Fernando, I'm going to put you on the hot spot. If there was one thing that people should do right away when they leave this or within the next few days, what should they do?
You know, we're constantly on our soapbox talking about security audits. Audits are so critical to a business because we've discovered that hackers have been sitting in networks for 30 days plus, and nobody knows about it. They sneak in somehow, and it's yeah, it's not a good thing. So that security audit is my first anything. I would always start off with a security audit.
Outstanding. Thank you. So start out with a security audit. Get your visibility. Update your asset inventory. Do you have an old, I don't know, blood pressure machine or something? I know that that's not a real thing, but do you have an old piece of hardware somewhere that is so ancient it can't be updated anymore and it is still somehow attached to your network? Well, you need to know that so you can make an action plan, right? List all of your vendors. Identify all the systems where protected health information is sitting. And again, you don't have to do this by yourself. This tech stuff, I am not, despite the fact that I work with a tech company, I'm not actually a tech person. I'm a clinician. or I have been a clinician, right? So I need help with this, and it's okay to get help with this. Whoever your IT person is, have them help you write it out. Now, if you just have one computer, one hard piece of hardware, then it gets pretty easy. But most of us these days have a lot more than that. You might be working with the cloud. You might have some AI that you're using. When you're using AI to check on things, does PHI somehow get in there? You might be surprised. People forget that, Claude or ChatGPT, they're hoarding all of the information that we put in there. So if you go in there and you're like, well, I need to know how to address this issue, best practices, um, and you put anything personal about that client, it's out there. And that's another reason why all of this needs to get visible. There's a lot of new ways. I mean, goodness gracious, computing, technology, AI, it is flying. And HIPAA is just trying to get us caught up so that we're safe. Once you've got all your visibility, then you can make your plan, right? Well, what do I need to do next? This day 1 through 30, that's now. Where am I? What do I need to address? You'll end up with evidence that you put in audit-proof folders, you have your list of your vendors, and you have your backup success report. Then day 31 through 60, you close the obvious gaps. That's the next thing you do, right? That's your plan of action and milestones. That's your care plan. And again, you can get your IT guy, you can get your MSP to turn on the MFA. My goodness. It's literally like I think a 5 minutes fix. Confirm your encryption at rest and in transit is enabled where your PHI lives. Run at least one vulnerability scan, one external and preferably internal. Fix low-hanging fruit issues like outdated software, things that can be patched, right? Then again, you've got your evidence, you put that in your audit-proof place, and you're ready to go for the next, which is 61 to 90 days. That's build the structure. Update your core policies. Because you've been getting visibility on where you are now, where your risks are, where things are getting out of hand, you can write or update your key policies, get your security and your access control and your incident response plans together, document your risk analysis, continue your POA&M, your plan of action and milestones. Make sure you have on your calendar your annualized testing, and again, talk with your IT professionals about what needs to happen next. And you don't have to do everything at once. You just need to start with a clear plan. And once again, I'm gonna go to Fernando. Fernando, are auditors looking for it to be perfectly put together right from the get-go?
They're looking for gaps, right? Auditors are they're looking for reports. They're looking for specific documentation to ensure you are compliant. They're not going to go around looking at every computer going, "Oh, do you have EDR in place?" No, they're really looking for documentation. That's what we've been writing about. So yeah.
Perfect.
And you've got to have that, documentation ready or you're in trouble.
Yeah, you've got to have
Yeah.
the documentation ready. And I see something that's pertinent here. Sarah and Ashley have asked, "Hey, I'm a one-person operation. How do I do this?" Well,
Yeah.
yeah, this is the difficulty, right? Because your day should be seeing the little kids you're working with, seeing the older person who's had a stroke, seeing the individual, doing what you love and where your passion is. And so you may need to get some help with this. We will be sending you a checklist, and again, the 30, 60, 90 plan to hopefully get you started, but you may need some help. It's okay to ask for help. And in fact, while I'm thinking about it, why don't I go ahead and put in Where's my HIPAA notes? Here they are. I keep saying, where's my HIPAA notes? Um,
But to answer the question on for one man shows, and I could see that, like, let's say a chiropractor's office, there are solutions out there that are because there's not a lot of technology. There's probably one computer, but the processes that you have in place are going to be critical. One multi-factor authentication license, one EDR license, right? It's not going to break the bank, but you got to have something in place to show auditors that you are proactive.
hmm.
You got to be proactive, or you're going to get into trouble. You've worked hard to get to this point in life. Why allow such a minor offense tear everything down? And that would be a shame. So, and all of this can easily be done with a security audit. We can easily come in, determine where there are gaps and what the costs are going to be each month to keep you secure and compliant. That's the easy part.
That's the easy part. Thank you, Fernando. Yeah,
Yeah.
and Ashley says, "Thank you. I thought I was doing everything right until now." Yeah, exactly. So, and this has been kind of the problem that OCR and or HHS and OCR have been seeing. Folks think they were doing everything right. They think they have things, but they don't necessarily have it documented or they don't have a plan. Again, I'm going to go back to the Mississippi Medical Center. I bet they have an IT. I bet they have a cybersecurity stuff. They thought, but because of this addressable idea, because maybe of documentation missing, there were just gaps. And so, yeah, I have put in the link. I put in two things. I put in the notice of proposal for rulemaking. So you've got that link there if you want that. I also put in the link. It is the link basically that you used the web page to register for this. Scroll all the way to the bottom, and at the bottom, you'll see where we have the handouts for you. You can also, I'm just gonna, why not? 30 minutes. Schedule 30 minutes with me. I can answer your questions. I can find out more about what's going with you. If you want to schedule a security audit, we can move on from there and get Fernando involved. I'd love to chat. Again, speech therapists, come on, talk to me, babies. Let me go to my next slide here. So, what do we have in place? I'll do a shameless plug. Shameless plug, Lionfish Cybersecurity. We have this platform called the Cyber Tackle Box. The Cyber Tackle Box allows for the organization. We have pre-written documents and policies and procedures. You may not need all of them. You may be able to put some things in like one thing. Clear job descriptions, staff training records, so it's all in one place. You can put your asset inventory in there, all of this, the POA&M that I kept talking about. So you can organize it, you can operationalize it, and then you can have assurance because it's on a dashboard. You can just look at it at a glance. One click audit ready reports all day, every day, all year so that it's continuous. It doesn't have to be a scramble. Automatic reminders for getting things done, and it can track all your changes. If you wanted a demonstration of this, I could certainly do it. And again, I know who I'm talking to because I have been you. Clinicians, service providers. The tech stuff may not be in your wheelhouse, but we can help you with this. And we would love to. Uh, so, so how do we make it manageable? You don't have to do this alone. You don't. Even the single person shop, or if you've got 700 persons in your shop, you don't have to do this alone. And it doesn't have to be overwhelming. You break it up into small pieces, same as a care plan, right? I know that my long-term goal is that Mrs. Jones will be able to ask for her green pajamas, but the short-term goal may be that Mrs. Jones can identify green, and then we stack up from there. Use the now next evidence framework, which in our handouts, that's in there. Consider partnering with a compliance specialist. Maybe it's us, maybe it's someone else. I mean, I'd love for it to be us. But get support. You don't have to do this alone. Same thing that you tell your patients every day. You don't have to do this alone. We're here to help. We'd love to help you. Use your templates, get expert help. And that's, I think, pretty much everything. I'm looking, will the meeting recording be sent to us? Thank you, Lynette. Yes, it will be. Once we get it up, I'll be sending everybody an email saying thank you for being here with us. And I will again provide the link to get the handouts, and I'll provide the recording session as well. If you're ready to get started, woohoo! Let me put, I gotta find my links again. Okay, so I'm going to put a link, a calendar link of mine in the chat. Hit me up. Get yourself on the calendar. We'll chat for 30 minutes if you want to talk about your current environment, the new requirements, and how they might work to your specific situation, how we might be able to support you. And it's free, it's no obligation. Same as this is about education. I'd love to chat with you. And then, depending on what your needs are, we can get Fernando involved and help you out. I am available. And we've got, let's see, how much time do we have here? We got about 5 minutes. Are there any more questions? I saw Karen hop forward like she was gonna hit something. I'm like, yeah, girl. No? All right, I'm gonna look at the chat one more time. Don't be, this is a safe environment. If you have a question, I will not laugh at you. It will be a good question, and somebody else here will have the same question. What is the estimated cost of a package for a 20 employee? That's from Lynette. Lynette, thank you for that. What we have found really is that it's an organization to organization kind of deal. This is where we would need to talk to you beforehand and do a security analysis beforehand to find out where your gaps are. If you are 80% of the way there and you just need a psych office, thank you, and you just need a few wrenches turned, it might not be, that much. But if you're starting from the ground up and we're writing all the policies and everything, it might be a little more. Get with me. I'd love to speak with you. Thank you for asking, though. That's the perfect question at the perfect time. Anyone else? Don't be afraid. Again, all good questions. Psych office. Love my psych people. Thank you so much for everything you do. I know you've saved my cookies on many occasions. No? Okay. Well, that pretty much wraps it up. I'll stay on. How do I schedule with you? I put a link in the chat. https://link.fusey.co widget bookings. Elizabeth Schaefer, 30 minutes. You can use that link. And again, I will be sending emails out today or tomorrow. I'll have the link involved there as well so that you can schedule. I'd love to talk to you.